Greetings, Nick with Sweetwater here, and today I'm with my good friend Greg over here.
Hey!
The one, the only, the very tall Greg. And he's an extraordinary guitar player. Initially they said, hey, let's have a riff-off. That's like me getting into ring with Conor McGregor. Not gonna happen. So I bought this book.
You
It's
did?
jolly good. It's jolly good.
Oh, well, thank you.
Brave New Blues Guitar by Greg Koch. So
Yes.
without further ado, where did you get, actually let's jam.
Let's do it.
So what key would you like to start with?
I think A is a good key.
A minorish?
Yeah, I'm down.
So who starts playing? Why don't I play lead first, that way I don't have to follow you. See what I'm doing here?
All right. Yes!
And now you've seen and heard why I didn't want to follow that. So I've known Greg for more years than both of us would care to recall.
It's been a while.
And
It's been a long spell. I remember back in the Marshall days, and then you were on board with the Fender crew, and then you're at Sweetwater. It's been a long time. We've always had fun in each other's company.
Two pirates on a mission to get away with playing guitar and paying the bills.
Exactly correct. Both of us with 4 children. What were we thinking?
I know. Insanity, my friend.
Indeed.
Now, I would like to pick your brain, pun intended, because I love the way you play outside while remaining in.
Uh-huh.
So you described yourself earlier, and I thought it was a really good description. So please tell the folks how you would describe yourself as a guitarist.
Well, I'm basically a blues rock guitar player that got wise to some other stuff out of both necessity to stay solvent and to stay interested, really.
Right.
And but I grew up listening to my 2 main guys when I first started playing was Cream era Clapton and Hendrix. And then, of course, Jeff Beck and Zeppelin and all that kind of stuff. But there was something about the way that Clapton phrased and all of what Hendrix did that was kind of my blueprint. And when I read about these guys, I kept on hearing about B.B. King and Albert King and Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and Buddy Guy and Otis Rush and all these guys. So I did the deep dive that way. About the same time, Clapton came out with a record called Just One Night. It was a live record, and he had this other guy playing guitar on the record named Albert Lee. And I was listening to him play. I was like, that's not the blues scale. And so I started going down the rabbit hole of what that was all about. I got into these country guys. Around the same time, Mark Knopfler was out, and he was doing that chicken picking thing, and I just loved that sound. Wasn't necessarily a country music fan per se, but so I just started adding it all to the pile, as it were.
I didn't know that Albert Lee thing, because that's interesting, because that was Zach's story as well. It's like when he joined us, it's like, I can't tap because everyone else is doing that. Arpeggios, Yngwie's got it. Ooh.
Right.
Albert Lee is doing something rather interesting.
Yes.
And now he's become that chicken-picking metal demon that he is.
Yes.
The Viking chicken picker.
Exactly.
And, John Five's another guy that went that route as well.
Exactly.
Now, how did you marry that with show us an example of how you would put chicken picking into a blues-esque thing,
Well, see, initially when I chicken picked, I didn't use the hybrid picking. That kind of came later.
Right.
So I would stash my pick in between my first and middle fingers. So I would kind of approach chicken picking with, if I married the blues stuff together, like a... kind of throwing that stuff together with the thumb and the fingers. And then later on, it wasn't until I started that chicken picking stuff pretty early on. So, I don't know, 15 years old-ish. And it wasn't until I was a good, 21, 22, that I forced myself to start doing the pick and fingers thing together. And that was an awkward transition.
I bet.
But once I did that, then that was easier to do. I started doing all that Merle Travis type of, all that kind of sort of. And that kind of stuff, and adding a little extra bucket chicka in there.
Right, gotcha.
And then adding in the, kind of stuff with the pick and finger sounds a lot brighter.
Yes, it has a snap.
Exactly. But I like the sound of the thumb and the finger as well, because that's a little earthier sound, and it's got a little bit more of a mellower attack.
Bit more organic, maybe.
Thank you. Yes.
That's the word of the day,
so
organic.
It is.
One of them.
It is indeed one of the catchphrases of today's fast-paced music industry.
Now, you play what I say outside, like as you said, that you saw Albert Lee and went, that's not the blues scale.
Right.
Now, when you play outside, i.e. not in a quote-unquote typical like pentatonic or blues scale, do you know what you're doing, or do you think about it afterwards and work out why it works?
In the moment, anything might happen, but it's based on a theoretical approach.
Good. So how did you learn theory? What is your theoretical background?
Well, I did go to school for music. I went to the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point, where I majored really in beer, if we're honest. Right. But it was jazz guitar performance. And I never really wanted to be a straight-ahead jazz guy in terms of, the traditional approach of, some kind of a hollow body guitar with flat wound strings into a polytone amp and learning every standard and every key, and then spending the rest of your life on a Lido deck of some cruise ship, you know what I mean, playing Girl from Ipanema. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just wanted to know how to play over changes and be able to be literate in writing and reading music. Gotcha. So and it worked to some extent. So, that taught me kind of the scale. I would hear scales, I would hear things going on, like what is going on there. And so a lot of what I learned was, learning modes, and then learning, diminished whole tone scales and how to apply those, melodic minor, harmonic minor, all that other kind of stuff. But then after a while, I just started, I would hear, like Larry Carlton did this thing, and where he would start like a half step down from a given key center. So if I'm an A, instead of just kind of being in blues land, he would he'd start like a half step down and do like an A flat Dorian over an A, minor situation.
And make it work.
And that would make it work. And then I thought, well, you can do that with anything. You could start a half step down, you can step half step above. You can use any kind of scale as just pentatonics. You can add weird stuff in. Again, starting in A, I could start in A flat, go up to A, Go half step up, add some chromaticism in there,
Right.
and then throw in some whole tone. And then throw in some diminished. So it's kind of based on things in the moment they're connected to theory,
Right.
but anything in the moment can happen.
But when you do it, it sounds right. Is that because you play it with intent?
Yeah. You know, like if I just like vamp it on something, like I might go. The whole first part, like, I mean, that's totally messed up, but
Right.
it works. So you can superimpose different chords over things, different pentatonic scales over the pentatonic you're supposed to be in. Like one simple one is like, instead of being an A minor pentatonic, I might go between A minor and C minor pentatonic. So it'd be like, you know, C minor, back to A. So stuff like that works. Or I can think half step, whole step. So I can think, well, I can go. So I do like, let me off. So I'm basically going. So you can start taking it out, and then as long as you resolve it,
Gotcha.
you're good.
So I loved your. I've never heard someone say A minor and C minor, but I guess you're minorizing the relative major.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I know Eddie called it falling down the stairs and landing on your feet. Do you ever think you're doing that when you're mixing and matching like this? Like the resolution is landing on your feet?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like why I always refer to, you're taking the listener by their ear, and at first they didn't want to go, but then once they get to their destination, I'm like, that was cool.
Yeah. Like I remember asking George Lynch once how he played so outside. And he went, number one, he said, I don't know what you're talking about. Number two, I don't play anything trepidatiously. I go with intent.
Right.
I know what I want and I'm going for it.
Right.
Follow if you will.
Right.
And that's
A lot of
dragging
times
by
I'm
the
just
ear.
following like, you know, I've been doing more Skype lessons than usual during the Cove.
Right.
And one of the things I always kind of harp on is that what you're about to play should be influenced by what you just played. So a lot of times I might start off with some kind of random utterance.
Right.
And then I'm just feeding off. And it might be a rhythmic thing, it might be a scalar thing, it might be a chordal thing, or an arpeggiated thing, whatever the case may be. But that kind of gets the conversation going. And in that process, it's you're just randomly improvising, so anything can happen. And that keeps things very fresh, because then you're never, it's not like you're playing licks, although there might be licks involved in that conversation, but you know, it's all in the kind of service of what just happened and how am I responding to it type of a thing.
So you listen to yourself. What a concept.
Yes, and you listen to what's going on around you. It's all kind of symbiotic.
What would your advice be to people watching going, I don't know what he's just talked about, but I love it? How would someone like get started with this?
Well, just in terms of, I mean, not getting to the outside stuff per se, but this conversational way of playing, one of the things I like to say to folks is, because typically what will happen is someone will say to me, I play the same licks over and over again.
Yeah.
And as guitar players, we're always thinking that at some point in the future, you're going to be able to play something that's not going to make you want to puke. You know what I mean? It's always like it's down the road, there's going to be guitar satisfaction.
Musical theory speak there.
Exactly. So I always like to say, nothing should be stopping you from creating great music with whatever skill set you have now. And if you think about it in that conversational sense of doing like a call and response to yourself, that leads to a satisfying improvisation for yourself, and it also keeps the listener involved. Like if I just do like a basic thing, like we're in the key of A here nonstop, but that's all right. It's a good centrally located key. If I just do something like Get the idea. So it's all
It flowed.
responding.
That flowed. That was a conversation.
Yes.
Learning stuff here. So this is not a video about me. It's me stealing from Greg. Talking of stealing from people,
Yes.
being an artful thief, as I like to say.
Yes.
What would your advice be to stealing from someone else but making it yours? Last question, I promise.
Well, no, that's fine. What's interesting about that process to me is I was never one to want to learn a solo verbatim, ever. I don't think I ever really learned a solo. There were key elements of the solo that I thought were cool that I wanted to add to my grab bag.
Right.
But I wanted to speak in the language of the person without necessarily repeating verbatim what they said. So, and in that process, a lot of times I would figure things out incorrectly, and I like that better. So my suggestion is as you're messing around trying to create your own thing, yes, it's cool to like get verbatim signature licks from various folks to add to your stew, but try to learn the vernacular more than just regurgitating what was said.
Right.
And in that process, you might find yourself playing something not quite what they did, but I kind of like this better, and don't be afraid of that, and embrace it.
Yeah, the late great Dime actually said that he wasn't very good at copying, but he learned a lot by trying to because he never got it right, but he liked what he did, and his advice was, if you want to play my stuff, if you think it's right, it's right.
Right, there you go. Perfect.
Because the only person who has to like it is you, and if you like it, the chance of other people liking it because you play with sincerity is pretty high.
Yes, that's very well put indeed.
So I would recommend folks buy Greg's book. That book I shamelessly threw. I bought it from Sweetwater, by the way, so it's my property. I didn't throw someone else's property. But I've studied that book. He studies all of the masters and gives his quirky take on it, and I learned a lot from it.
Well, thank you, sir.
That's $20 you owe me thus far for the plugs.
I'm a thousandaire, so I will be glad to buy you a nice cool Fresca.
Cool. So to finish, why don't we do this? Let's trade guitars and see what the hell happens.
All right, upside down activities. I like it.
But I'm gonna still play a righty lefty, if that makes sense. I can't play that way. My two hands just don't function, so I'll have to play yours upside down. So
I will do this. I will do the same.
So here we are. We've swapped guitars, broke a string, so we've changed guitars as well. So he's now playing a upside down Strat, like that Hendrix fella.
Yes.
Except the strings are upside down too. So something in E, I will start.
All right.
And see what happens. Here we go in E. Let's just fade on him. That was I can't follow that. That was damn good.